those of you who don't know, I've seen some new faces here, but we're like the biggest venture fund focused on crypto, digital assets, blockchain, whatever you want to call it, based in Israel. We're managing about $150 million, investing in founders, Israeli and Jews abroad mostly. And yeah, we have Marcelo. Do you want to come? We'll have a short panel with a few folks if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody. Well, I'm Marcelo, CEO, co-founder of KPK, ex-Karpatki. And yeah, first time visiting Tel Aviv. Really excited to be with you today, guys. It's so proud of you, of all of the amazing things you're doing for our industry. You know, mostly, well, all sort of things, but for us, most importantly, in security, right? Because we manage on-chain funds, and priority number one is surviving. So priority number one is security. So thank you.
All right, cool. So we'll also have like Tomer, Sharoni, and Ron. Ron, come on stage, come. We'll have a short panel. What are we going to talk about? Compliance, losing money, not losing money. Losing money is always bad. Yeah. Wait, Ron, Tomer, do you want to quickly introduce yourselves?
So hello, I'm assuming most of the people here know me from before. Used to work at eToro for 3 years. Then I moved to a company called Node Capital that is investing in early stage crypto ventures, and Node Monster that provide validation services, and joined Utila 1 year ago to lead the business development. We've been like 30 people, now we are 100, expanding from 100 clients to 300 clients in a year. So very exciting times to be here and speak.
Hi everyone, I'm Tomer Sharoni, the CEO and co-founder of Addressable. Addressable is a company that maps crypto wallets to the off-chain data behind them. And we do that for marketing needs and for investigations needs. So we map more than 100 million wallets already to the relevant people. And we do that in several spaces.
This panel is mostly, so let's start with this. Who lost some money in DeFi? Raise of hand. Who lost, yeah, of course. If you lost money in crypto, raise your hand. All right, these guys are the reason. No. But at least maybe they'll give you some insights on like what will happen next and how we will try to kind of mitigate it. So I think like the first question that we talked about is, right now it's kind of the phase of institutions are coming. We said this for many years, but now they might actually be here. So the questions to you is, what is the actual bottleneck to that, right? Is it like, the custody, the compliance, the education, their internal committees? So, Marcelo?
Well, one thing we are seeing, at least when it comes to permissionless market, the main bottleneck, I would say, is the perceived risk of the space right now. Well, we know capital is scared of anything related to losing funds, and right now it feels like we are losing the battle against North Korea, and the bad guys. So I would say that's the biggest bottleneck when it comes to permissionless markets. So
I think now, if you ask me like 1 year ago, it's for sure was security. I think now, and again, like when tell you a story when I was at eToro, so we decided to go on chain. It didn't happen, but this is why I like knew Utila, because we wanted to have like a secure custody on chain with a couple of measurements, but the phishing was too scary, right? Like to sign blinding. So we met Hexagate and the Chrome extension of Hexagate and said, wow, this is cool, but it's still like not finished. It's only like a pre-transaction. What about if I'm putting my money in a pool? Then we met Hypernative and said, okay, this is cool. Now they are competing each other, but never mind. And then we understood that there are many crypto companies that working on the security side, and now we see the infrastructure is actually amazing. Like I don't think North Korean will be able to do what they do if someone will actually use properly these 3-4 companies. Like Utila, now we are like a operational platform. We have smart contract policies to allow you to mitigate risks, internal and external. Hypernative, exegate, blockade has the transaction, post simulation. Everything should be okay in theory. But still we see like the North Korean, still the money. And I think it's because the crypto native guy are not there yet for security measurement. The incentives are not too high. It's better for them not to put money because they want to do like quick money. I'm not saying about KPK that I know that they're using like a couple of other measures. But in the end, this is not, I think, the bottleneck. The bottleneck now is education and maybe to bring some Israeli cybersecurity experts to these companies, the DeFi protocols, to build the layers of security. And I think regulation by far is now the challenge to explain the regulator what is ERC20 even. It's not an easy job, and to say to them permissionless finance where there is like AML pools and illicit funds, it's very complicated job.
I think most of the banks in the world and most of the financial institutions are run by regular people that love their job, love what they're doing. They don't understand the complexity of the technology. And for very understandable reasons, the technology is too complicated. It's very hard to trust. And the banking system trusts people. And it's easier to trust. And what we see in Addressable is that the banking system wants to know everything. They wants to know where the money comes from, where the money goes to, money in investments, money in payments, money in all kinds of transactions. And when it's not attributed to a person, then it's nobody's money. And then it's very easy to commit crime with that money. So in general, crypto is heaven for criminals. It's everything a criminal could have dreamed of because it's anonymous money on the internet. And what we see is that the banking system that requires knowing everything, who's sending, who's receiving, is just in a train wreck with crypto permissionless industry where nobody knows everything. A lot of things are unknown. So what we have is a very limited amount of adoption because these two worlds are just are complete opposites. The banking system, the payment system, everything in the world that takes money into account requires the exact opposite of crypto, requires knowing who's who. And this is exactly what still makes adoption so slow. Because when you say regulation, why the regulators are waiting? What are they waiting for? Why are they slow? When you say risk, why is it so risky? All of these, I think the root cause analysis is that the money is just not attributed to a person, and then everything is possible.
Yeah, so I think you said something interesting around like banks and, they want to trust people, right? And I think one of the core premises of crypto, right? And even we saw this kind of like with the Tornado Cash founders. It's like we built a protocol, we built a piece of software, and you cannot put the piece of software in jail. You can't even accuse the piece of software in something. And as much as, a bank would like to trust a person, that if that person has done something bad, they would like to put him in jail, right? And when you develop a permissionless protocol, you can't put that in jail, which is kind of like an interesting analogy from the other side. So that's, super interesting. And I think to what Ron said, like, I have a short story, if you will. I was in New York a few months ago, and I was at dinner with a few senior bankers. I had a few glasses of wine, obviously. So I was drunk, so the story will become funny from here. But they were saying, like, these hacks and the North Koreans, I heard one of them said, like, they funded half their missile program with laundered money. I was like, I don't know about that. But I have, like, 2 words that will make you feel comfortable. And I said, Israeli tech. And then they all laughed. right? But I think it's actually, I was being serious. And I think like there's like a bunch of Israelis here. Israel is like a, superpower in terms of security and cybersecurity and compliance. And I think, some of the guys here and the guys that will come after in the second panel, like embody that. And I think we're at a crucial point in time, like this is one of the critical points to make the banks feel safe. And once they feel safe, or like the financial institutions feel safe, once they do feel safe, like they will be able to come. And then maybe I'll jump into the other question, because we talked about this kind of like this whole, permissionlessness, right? And, the question is, is this even possible, right? The Bybit hack was huge, right? Like $1.3 billion. And then, just the past, what was it? I think April was the worst month in crypto's history in terms of hacks. And we are talking about, like, is this permissionlessness? Is this decentralization? Is this censorship resistance? Is this vision even possible? Is this realistic? And should that continue on, or do we need to have a version of our gatekeeping? Because I think everybody here agrees that we don't want North Korea to launder and steal money to fund its missile program. We don't want Iran to steal money and fund its nuclear program. And so how do we do it? It's kind of like scoring a circle, or however you say it, but yeah.
So you mentioned now it's super fashionable to say, okay, institutions are coming, then they want to have this, they require to have these walled gardens, which by the way always existed. So there's not a lot of innovation when it comes to tokenization, really. It's basically giving additional distribution rails to existing players. What I'm quite worried is having these crypto users as second-rate citizens in the financial system. But I would say I think that the thing that worries me the most in this bear market is that it's a sort of bear market in values, of the vision of the industry. We believe it's like now it's like nobody cares about decentralization. I heard about this a lot of times. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. Of course, it doesn't matter until shit hits the fan, and and everybody wants to make sure that they are not the ones being blocked. So this is something we discussed about permissionless. Okay, we want to have a financial market with good guys who follow rules, right? That usually, for people like us, is people who follow like Western values, right? But the idea of having a permissionless market is really strong in the sense that it's the only free market. It's really the only free market, and you can have this jurisdiction financial hubs, which by the way they exist today, but eventually they need to be connected by something that is a free market, and that's gonna exist for all of the players in the world, whether we like them or not. So I suspect that's still gonna be a thing.
I would just say it's an interesting take, because we say that we don't want North Korea, right? Or we don't want Iran, but then, I mean, I've bought weed, right? Weed is illegal. Where does that line pass, right? If all of the future financial system will become on-chain, then I don't know, maybe me for buying weed, I'm excluded from that financial system. I didn't build a fucking rogue nuclear program, right? And then so like, where does that pass?
Yeah, so I think I'm the only crypto native in the world that is not liberal. I'm actually a socialist. I learn economics. This is my BA, and all the time, no one actually convinced me about free market. This is like a password that crypto native believe, and it failed. Of course, we need like free market, right? But we also need regulation, and we need garden. And I'm not afraid from the North Korean. I don't think it's like the problem here. North Korean also can have cash, and Hezbollah also have tons of cash. It doesn't matter if it's crypto or cash or whatever. I'm more afraid than the actors themselves, the FTXs, the Binances, these kind of guys that lure you into their ecosystem, and 95% of them want to make money, and then they don't care about you at all. It's also, in the case of DeFi funds, why they are not taking the measures, because in the end you cannot sue a smart contract. So they don't have accountability about their user funds. And if drift lots 200 million, that means that they don't have any accountability of the user funds. 200 million, if you lost it, you go to jail. And I think this is why we need this kind of... and again, people in liberals think the country, the state is bad. Like it's such an American thing to do. But in the end, the country want you to be safe. They want you to make your money. They want you to feel happy. Okay, and this is like the nature of the countries and the world, and this is why people in crypto native lost. Okay, I'm saying like again, like too aggressive, but you understand they lost when FTX collapsed. This is where the country and the regulators said, okay, that is it. The playground is over. Now I'm getting in, doing some order, and now we see more people want to go on chain.
Celsius was before FTX.
Okay, so Celsius, I don't care. I think it's like two in the same thing. Maybe Sam Bankman-Fried and the Ukrainian Jew was friends, and But in the end, this is what they need, and also the institutions. Yeah, institutions want to make money on you, but they still want you, and I think, be safe. They care about your money, okay, and they want you to succeed and grow, because if you grow, they grow. And in crypto, sometimes it doesn't like that because of the accountability. So yeah, I'm truly believe that it's a hybrid mode. And I will say, just to finalize, that in the end, you can do, wallet garden, let's say Canton. Okay, this is the trend now, and to do it like very institutional. But in the end, every institution in Canton and every institution in Stellar want this distribution to retail. Okay, this is the goal. It doesn't mean that you will close everything and do. They want this distribution, but they just want to do it like in a compliance way. So in the end, I believe like the world is like X stocks, like to tokenize stocks. It will be regulated, but in the end, you can go to DeFi and loan on your stock. Fine by me. This is a win-win, I think.
I think crypto is experiencing now what we saw in traditional finance 20 years ago. You could launder a lot of money 20 years ago. A lot of the Israeli banks, like Apoalim and Lomi, got billions in fines for laundering 30 years ago, for laundering rich people's money in high amounts. The system that is built on just on capitalism making a lot of money is always trying to find the loopholes, and these loopholes were closed over many decades in the traditional system. Now what we see in crypto is so many loopholes. So many places to get money in without being recognized, get money out without being accounted for, and all those. And when we look at this ecosystem in crypto, we see what most of the people see are speculative tokens, but what we see from within the industry is a very robust and fast infrastructure for sending, receiving, and manipulating money. In good ways. In what we also see is all the loopholes. So what I actually believe is that there's not a big difference between traditional finance and crypto. It's just the maturity. The maturity takes time. When you see adoption of smartphones, within 10 years everybody has a smartphone from the launch of the iPhone. With money rails, it takes more time. With money rails, it takes more systems to adopt, and the network effect to start being present and being felt by everybody. And those loopholes will close. It just takes a bit more time. You saw all the compliance products in fiat 25 years ago. You saw all of this boom of all the regulators acquiring all the banks to really verify each and every transaction only 25 years ago. After 2008, the big collapse of Lehman Brothers, it was also about a lot of the loopholes being exploited by all these institutions in fiat, and now you see all these FTXs and Celsiuses exploiting these loopholes and collapsing with less of a severe effect because they have less money, and I think these loopholes will get closed. Institutions and the standards will be raised, and everybody in the crypto industry, when it's actually money rails for the big money of the world, will have to use all these security measures, all these procedures. Sometimes it will slow us down. The transactions will have to be verified over certain amounts. It won't be instantaneous. It can be reversed in some ways. So we'll see all of that. But on the infrastructure of crypto, where things can move faster, it's cheaper, cutting all the monopolies of moving money, cutting all the monopolies of holding money. And that will be a very big success for society, because cutting costs of managing money is what we all want to have much more affordable life.
And I studied in university something called PPE. It's philosophy, political science, and economic. So they always like telling you the same thing. You know, there is like the tension, like you said, between the free market and legislation, and how you solve it. You know, how you coming like the best way for both worlds. And again, I think crypto can solve it. Actually, this is why I'm here. This is another lecture, but in the end, I don't think the government should be involved in all these legislations and solve it. You know, solve this problem of why should I do in X when it go Y, and why should the Y and go X? They need to create the framework for that, and the market can solve it. So in the end, I believe in the free market, that they can solve the problems, and you will see what will work and what will not work. And of course, the government can be bad. In the end, it's a matter of balance. Okay, and I don't have, because it's very specific to say, you need to give me a use case, and I can answer specifically on the use case when it's contradict. I don't know, like in general, if the government can solve it or not. I will say that yesterday was some interesting example with Circle, like they froze some USDC funds that was in the Zama protocol. It's like privacy, and then the Zama also told us like it doesn't relate to us. But in the end, you said, okay, this is an interesting question, right? Permissionless will say no, like Eylon will tweet about it, how like Circle froze this funds, and I will say, look, this is like a North Korean funds, we need to froze them. But then Circle can control your money. Of course they can control your money. They're issuing your money is in Circle bank account. You are not afraid, like you need to afraid with when you're putting and you transact with USDC, and you don't afraid. Why? Because they are a public company, because the country regulated them, because they need to disclose these financial statements. It's a very interesting for policymakers. This is why if someone want to go to politics, there is election in the November. So go, because I know many of my friends go to the Ministry of Economics, and they're actually pretty smart, and they want in favor of us and not against us.
Okay, so maybe we can move on to like the next question. I think Tomer, you said something interesting in terms of like how does this system, like economic system, even looks like, right? So basically, we're saying it's going to be on-chain, and that means maybe global, 24/7, less middlemen, but it's not permissionless, right? It's not censorship resistant, and it's not decentralized, right? So is this the system that we're going towards? Like, is this how kind of like all of you guys are seeing it? In terms of, is this what we built here? And I'll maybe give kind of like an example. I like to give these examples, which is, when I was growing up, there was like Napster. So Napster was like a rebellion against the record labels and everything, and then the resolution of that rebellion was something like Spotify, right? The technology under the hood, we like that. We like the fact that you want to listen to music on demand. We like that. But we don't like the piracy, the censorship, the decentralization. And that's how we integrate that. And then later on, you had torrents and, pirating movies. And then, again, the resolution to that rebellion was Netflix, right? We love the on-demand, on the internet, all of that, but we don't like the piracy. So we're just saying the same thing happen here as well?
I think technology moves much faster than anything else, than regulation, than people adoption, than everything. Everything is following technology. And then the first use cases a lot of times of technology are under-regulated. You don't know whether it's legal or not. It's just new. And someone creates music with AI based on the best songs in the world. Are they copying some IP or not? It's new songs, but they were trained on the best songs in the world, the hits. So it's very hard to decide what should be done here. And in crypto, it was very hard to decide at the beginning what should be done. Should we regulate that as money or not? Should we regulate that as securities or not? And of course, whoever could move fast could make a lot of money out of it before it's regulated. So what I see, and the Napster case is just wonderful for that, is that whenever we want to take the new technology, get it into our life, get it to everybody's pockets, we must make sure that people comply with the law, people are actually staying within the limits of the law. So you cannot buy illegal drugs with crypto. You cannot. And that's because you want crypto to be used by everybody. You want crypto to be used, not just the crypto money, but the crypto rails. And I can tell you a story. We took Addressable investigation product and met the Ethereum Foundation. We met the head of privacy. Now, of course, under the ethos of Ethereum, you don't want people or polices to know whose wallet is it. And you don't want anyone to know whose wallet is it under the ethos of crypto. But then I asked the Ethereum Foundation and the head of privacy, would you endorse this product? Would you endorse the fact that there is a way to know something about wallets that is off-chain and catch the criminals, find the people who buy drugs, find any type of people that do things that are still illegal within the crypto ecosystem? And then they said, yes, we want to endorse that. In order for crypto rails to be used by everybody, all the pension funds and all the banks, we have to make sure they trust the Ethereum Foundation. They trust what's on the network to be legal and to be part of the society and not some kind of an outlier in society. So I ask you all here, do you want crypto to keep being outside of the legal system, to be able to hide from the tax authorities some money on crypto, or you want crypto to be part of the system? And this is a big question, because when I ask this in audiences of hundreds of people within the crypto ecosystem for many years, many of them want this to be a backdoor. They want their crypto to be outside of the tax system. They want their crypto to be a way to make more money without paying taxes. And this is because they like the way they found about this before everybody else. They like the way they were able to make money before everybody got in. And now they don't want this romantic part of their unregulated early discovery life to be boring again, regulated, very, very much like everything else, not new anymore, very heavily monitored, like everything else in money in the world. So it's very, very easy to see that in many audiences and many people in the crypto space, they wanted to keep being as it was 5 years ago. And it's not like that anymore. And it's disappointing a lot of the early adopters. And also a lot of the people in the Ethereum Foundation who like the way it was.
So just to do it quick, and so in the end, the funny thing is that the people that sitting in the audiences are not the people that deciding in the end. Like in the end, government and regulations and policymakers. But I will again refer to what I said before, that I'm said that I'm anti-capitalist. That means that I also doesn't like Netflix and these guys, right? Like, so you need to have the distinction between corporation and government. Okay, it's not the same body. Sometimes in crypto they hate both of them, right? Like they hate all the big, but they are not the same purpose and not the same activities, and nothing is different. Like the whole purpose of Netflix is doing money on you, and the government is kind of protect you sometimes. So I don't think organizations like Netflix and Facebook will be the largest financial ecosystems like Twitter want to be with the evil in my side. Like the big evil here is Elon Musk for me, like in this story, because I think in the end they will need to lose their control, and this is why I like in DeFi. They will lose the control of something, right? Like monetization is better for the user in DeFi, but it doesn't mean no regulation, right? So we need to find the balance. But in the end, corporations are out for me. Permissionless, it will be semi-permissioned with some close-gated, but more transparent, that you can criticize the cooperation, that it will be more transparent, more inclusive. That is the important stuff. We didn't talk about the advantages of crypto, only the disadvantages, that someone in Africa can hold money. So basically, yeah, and I'm very excited for this time because I see a lot of regulations, and we're talking with all the banks in the world. They understand the advantages. They still want to be, even they want to be in DeFi. That was very surprising to me. They want to interact with smart contracts. I know banks that are doing tokenized deposits and want to send it to DeFi. But they just, again, security and regulation are still in some inflection point. But the world is hybrid, Eylon.
I wanted to touch some, I think you both mentioned very interesting things. That you mentioned the transparency aspect of our industry, and you mentioned this thing that kept me thinking about the nostalgia of original holders. And yeah, we know this was naturally a movement out of libertarian people who, to a certain degree, they distrusted governments, right? But I think that the safe answer to the question of how is this space gonna look like, I think it's, of course, the safe answer is a hybrid approach. You know, it's very easy to imagine how the current global financial centers are gonna be replicated with some marginal cost reductions for using blockchain. You know, so it's gonna be a great saving cost from the balance sheets of the large financial institution, plus some extra distribution into retail. But I think, at least for me, that the main reason how I envisioned in the beginning how this is going to make a big impact is the transparency aspect, and how, if we do things right, and if these institutions do things right, there should be less asymmetry in the information of, so that's going to make markets more, fair, free, fair. I think it would be incredible if these making everything more open, in the sense more visible, potentially can reduce some large global systemic risks, like what happened, in the 2008 crisis. I think if instead of fighting against, is it permissionless or not? Is it going to be, crypto anarchy or institutional regulation? I think the win-win is this, making more things on chain.
I do think there's going to be a big problem with what banks want privacy at the end of the day, right? We're talking about, is it going to be open and going to be auditable? I think maybe one of the promises of crypto, right, is right now only the rich have, their Swiss bank accounts and their offshore and their hidden money in corporate structures. And now in this system, it's fully open, so everybody can see everyone, right? But I think if we from kind of my conversations with financial institutions, they want privacy. They're like, my client will not bring his, billions of dollars on chain. So how can we audit them? I mean, I don't know. How can we verify which financial institution did a private transaction? I mean, but that's the argument, that they're not doing it because it's not private. And I think maybe there's some of them that are on Canton, which is, fully permissioned. It's hardly can call it a blockchain, I guess. And, they're doing transactions there.
Private blockchains for these institutions have been a thing for a long time. Okay,
so let's say 10 years from now, 90% of the on-chain assets are, in regulated institutions. So did crypto win or lose? And that's kind of the last questions, and we'll open up to questions from your audience afterwards.
For me,
For you, it's lost?
Yeah, it's lost because, I expect Bitcoin to be at least 30 trillion, the market cap of gold, so, and much more than that, and then it gets closer to to American public companies capitalization. So if you see this, this, of course, it's opium, right? But then I don't think, I don't think we're getting to 90%, hopefully.
You have like MicroStrategy, you have like BlackRock, you have all the ETFs. That's kind of like still regulated, right? And even if Bitcoin becomes super big, what if, 50, 60, 70% of the circulating supply of Bitcoin is not even custodied by private people, it's custodied by some regulated finance type thing. Either one of those. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? It's a win or a lose.
Again, you understand my approach here. I think it's win. I don't think people need to keep their Bitcoin under the bed with the ledger, right? It will not work. But let's leave aside the Bitcoin. For me, what will win is the money rails, right? Like this is the important stuff. People forget about it. And now the hot trend is stablecoins, and we get back to the start, right? Like Bitcoin in the start wasn't like a gold. It's something that we invented in the years. It was meant to be like mean of value, right? Like to transfer value from one another. And now you see stablecoins. And if you look about the 100, now the FXC intelligence provide the 100 most important fintechs in the world. And 95% of them, I count, they're doing stablecoins. I can show you that, like I know. So when I see that, I'm thinking, okay, maybe the big fintechs will be there, but they will provide more inclusive to people in Africa. They maybe will be more transparent. Maybe I will pay less fees, right? Like I tried to do a Swift yesterday to my friend because I'm going to the World Cup, and I paid like $50 and etc. I don't need to convince you that crypto is good. So I think crypto, and in the end, if it will work, then they need yield. So they will go to DeFi, and they want loan, they go to DeFi. So I think it's win. People in DeFi are now look about the bear market, but it will come when everything on the stablecoin will be fit. So definitely win. And if you see all the M&A lately, all the fundraising and all the big company like Circle or all the IPOs, you see the top 50, I think, market cap companies in the world will be related to crypto somehow. Hope Fireblocks will IPO, and then Utila will have like a good benchmark, or many others that will do that.
So I think it's a big win when all the companies in the world use crypto, if all the crypto in the world is held by financial institutions or neobanks or fintechs or any other company that mediates the money from the person, so you can trust someone to help you with your money. That's fine. It's fine, and it's a big win. I'll tell you two stories. One. Before Trump got elected, I called my mom and I told her, buy Bitcoin. Trump is going to win. And she called the bank. And she told the bank, well, I want to buy Bitcoin. And they're like, what do you expect us to do? And she's like, buy IBIT. IBIT, it's this ETF. And then they move her between these different people in the bank until someone understands and tells her, well, that's for crazy people. Like, this super risky, it's not for you, don't do it. And she calls me and I'm on the other line and tell her, no, you have to insist. Buy IBIT. Buy IBIT. It was a week before the elections, and no advice. And of course there are many ETFs and many different providers, but the fact that they were not ready for someone to buy that just like that, and it's a sign, and I think that the fact that she was able to do that through the regulated ETF is a win. It's a win that everybody can buy, and they don't have to understand cryptography. They don't have to understand how to hold the ledger under the bed, and the second story is the actual usability. We use Utila, the wallet, for our company, and when we as a company want to pay people, most of them get the salary in fiat through the financial system. But some of our employees abroad get paid with crypto, and they are the easiest to pay to. They are the fastest and the easiest to pay to, because crypto in stablecoin is much easier, faster. super, super convenient. And this fact is something that people miss. The fact that we don't have to pay all the commissions, we don't have to wait for the transaction time for the 24 hours. We don't have to do all that. And the comparison, we just have it every month when we pay salaries. And that's amazing. And the fact that we don't pay anything to anyone to do that. And it's so fast. This is something people miss. The B2B use case is so convenient, and I hope that the P2P or the P2B with the consumers and the businesses will also pick up. And when more people get paid their salary in crypto, then of course we'll see more payments, because right now there's no real incentive to move your salary to crypto. You all probably get paid in fiat.
I wanted to disagree with you guys very hard, but it's these things you mentioned are sound, are good reasons. So I would say this world, I tend to agree with you that would be a very positive world, as long as the individual still would have the right to access to the same services without intermediaries, without still. If still there is this optionality to these services and access to have the same level of service that a mega whale who can have a very complex legal engineering with their with the Cayman structure. So as long that's still possible for somebody in a developing country, then that's a good one.
And just you think like DeFi solve it? Like DeFi is the only opposite of that. Like most of the people that are doing money on DeFi are whales, right? Like the end user or someone that get lucky from meme coins and then he put his money and lost. Like this is also something that you need to tell me how to solve as you are like the fund manager, not fund manager, but the curator. But in the end, it's same money, and the end like all the liquid funds in crypto, all the market makers that I will not say names, in the end doing money on top of everyone here.
We're not going to solve inequality, right? And there is this reality that we work in the I would say finance industry, not technology industry. So capital mostly recycles. So it's the powerful people with a lot of money will remain. So that's sadly is not going to change. Still, democratize access to services. I think it's a win.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest worry is that I'm going to be in one side of this financial system, and my weed dealer is going to be on the other side, and I won't be able to pay him. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Hi, nice meeting you, Marcelo. My name is Yotam. I'm a consultant and a software engineer here in Israel, working mostly with early stage startups. I have a question for you specifically. Maybe it's slightly off topic from what you guys discussed. You guys discussed a lot of compliance and regulatory, but I'm really interested, like on the security side, like we mentioned, like at first we talked a bit about North Korea, right? And I think, like I would love to know how you guys at KPK think about or even quantify the risk from stuff like, for example, the Kelp DAO hack. For example, when like some financial instrument, I mean, part of what we do in crypto is we invent novel financial instruments, right? So like Kelp DAO, we'd restake the ETH, then we loop it through Aave. And we do have multiple of these protocols, for example, Ethena with high leverage looping. I would love to hear from you, how do you guys think about those risks? Or maybe even how do you quantify these sorts of risks?
So I would say our specialty is on-chain asset management. And I would say when we come to doing due diligence of these protocols, we maximize the ones who open their data and this maximum of you want to know where funds are and what's happening with the funds. And usually when the limits to our vision usually finish when the off-chain world starts, because then you start having this trust assumption, the second order assumptions that then they use. Well, it's but much more difficult to do due diligence in this, to favor this type of protocols who follow crops from the Ethereum Foundation, who you can make sure there's no super admin keys and this type of things. And well, yeah, this is a game of surviving. So surviving and feeling vulnerable, because any of us can have a bad day and be subject to phishing or anything. So yeah, so I would say right now, to answer your question, I would say it's operational security. That's one of the weak spots, because social engineering ends up getting into the weakest links in the chain. So yeah.
I imagine, just before I'm going to give him the microphone, what happens if for every transaction that you had to sign on Ethereum, you would have to say like Kim Jong-un is a fat pig? Will that actually solve security?
Yeah, mostly, I guess. Thanks, Yotam, for getting us back on track. So the session started very well. We talked about how to not get wrecked, and we mentioned operational security. And this is what stops the institutions and most potential users to start adopting DeFi, because they're basically scared shitless. But then we started drifting away into privacy, which is a different subject. And then Thomas suggested to dox everybody, basically. And my question is, we see in the last 2 years, and mostly in the last couple of months, that everything is about basic security, that folks in Web3 are neglecting. So my question is, I guess mostly Marcelo for you, but for other folks as well, why in Web3 and specifically in DeFi we are so bad in basic security? What's going on? We don't care. We don't have the right incentives. Education. We are lazy. We are Gen Zs. What's the story?
So I have a few theories, but I feel like security is one of these things that are not visible. So you cannot. So best practices, OPSEC. This. You can follow standards. You can follow certifications. But still, I think the industry is heavily underinvested in this, mostly because it doesn't sell, and also everybody says they're doing it anyways. So I feel like it's a combination of underfunding these efforts, also culture. I would say a strong focusing in doing short-term work and having an exit, right? And that's maximizing the price short-term doesn't allow you to do these boring procedures that make everything more seemingly more difficult, right? Because these things is work. These things are work. So I would say a combination of that, and yeah, last month with all of these probably AI-based attack, it's being eye-opening, and I think I've seen many teams pivot into creating more standards and more OPSEC, and I think it's survival of the fittest. It's a real thing in our space. So yeah, only the serious one will survive.
I just want to also to answer. In the end, we also in the security DeFi a kind of security wallet infrastructure, and every time we see like a DeFi protocol get hacked, we investigate and understand why. In the end, it's good for us. They come to us or Hypernative and paying us money after the attack, because they lost now their revenue and they want to get back. But in the end, it's a matter of accountability. like if you go to financial institutions, people don't want to lose your money because they will go to jail. That's it. They don't care about you. They just scared not to go to jail. I can be 100% because I've been in talk with the financial institution. And in DeFi, you don't have this accountability. If KPK will lose tomorrow all the users' funds, Marcelo will not go to jail, hopefully. And he's a curator, he's holding money, he's doing the risk. And again, I'm sure that there are types of the world, but you cannot like rely on the good faith of people, that Marcelo is a good man and we trust him. We need to understand that there is I cannot say it, but there are results of your actions. And again, like I said in the beginning, Drift lost 200 million. They continue to operate and everyone saved them, okay? Recovery of Drift. What the fuck? They lost 200 million. They need to go to jail. And they need to, again, a lot of protocols came to us. I told like Tomer before that Resolve, after the hack, they go to us. And now they're Utila clients because we give them the best practices. And now they're willing to pay, ex post and not ex ante. And this is like, you're saying you see all of them, and then he came to you and you say, okay, now you can do policies, on-chain with the parameter, the smart contract. Now you can use like Hypernative cosigner to block you all the transactions if some malicious happen. Even North Korea doing social engineering, you need it. It's simple best practice to put your smart contract or put your addresses on whitelist to do transaction simulation, so not get phishing and use like Hypernative and Utila. It's not so hard, people doing that. So again, I don't think the operational security is kind of exist. I think the infrastructure is good. I think that the bad thing is accountability. If they will go to jail, so they will pay to Utila and Hypernative.
One sentence, I think security costs a lot of money to do that right, because you have to hire very expensive people that understand what they're doing, and you have to buy some products that help you with security. And all of that security operation is expensive. And as long as you don't have very strong incentives, this expense is just, it looks too big for the small startup you are. And what happens in DeFi is that most startups fail, but those who succeed manage a lot of money very fast with very few people. And they think on themselves as a startup, hey, I have 20 people. The fact that I manage $100 million, which is not a lot, or 1 billion, which is more in DeFi, I'm still a startup of 20 people. So I do whatever I can, but they don't look at themselves as financial institutions who hold 100 million or 1 billion so fast. And we see those hacks. They happen with startups. The startups just don't think of themselves as financial institutions who manage a lot of money. And this expense is just not something in their DNA. Even if they had the go to jail threat, they would ignore that. They don't even know the regulation in their field. They don't sometimes know that it actually worked for them overnight, and now they're a startup with a lot of other people's money.
Yeah, so quick one. I will not take much time, guys. So while Hacks makes more money for you guys, my question is if you can give us more insights on the institutional aspect. How is it delay them to enter the market, even though we know they're already there? But is there any big concerns from there to rapidly join it, or they're still looking behind the scenes? And
I want to give you a small example from the payment space. So let's say every company in the world, you can ask, why don't they add crypto payments? I mean, they have everything. They have credit cards. They have all the local payment options, and then they want to add crypto payments. A lot of them say, why should I? So what's the uplift from that in revenue? What will I gain from that? And what's the risk? And the risk reward equation here is not that good still. So if they get 1% more revenue but increase their risk by this portion, is it worth it? And of course the lower the risk is and the higher the revenue uplift is, you'll see more companies adopt crypto payments. But the risk reward equation here is still not that good. And this is why they go through other vendors, or they tell you, oh yeah, you buy with crypto some gift cards, and then you come to us with a regular gift card or whatever. So a lot of them are still, the e-commerce, a lot of them are still not there. And in the financial world, I think there's more incentive. The reward is higher, but the risk is also higher. So I'll let my friend here add on that world.
No, I see. Again, I think they coming in like 100% sure. Sometimes we call it like stablecoin 2.0. They maybe use like a different vendor, but then the margins, again, it's all about margins, right? Like, so they need to own their own stack. So we want them to use Utila. I don't think like blockchain like security is the challenge. Like I said in the beginning, I really don't think so. I think like the reward is too high, but the risk is not the security risk, is the compliance risk to go to jail. And again, I think the large institutions that want to buy Utila, they're doing like crazy due diligence about all the security measurement with RFPs, and they go into our MPC kind of cryptographic to understand, and they go and understand the compliance side with Chainalysis and everything. So the stack is here. Like I don't think again security is the measure. I think it's other, like I said, accountability or the regulator that is not fast enough. But you see like all the big banks doing some stuff on chain. If it's BlackRock with Securitize, Tokenize, so they're also using smart contracts. We've been like I think 2 days ago, or in Citibank, if someone was there, like they have the CIDP. It's like their own department of blockchain, and they say they're doing smart contracts for years. They know how to do it because they are slow, but it's a good thing. But again, I hope that my word will not go to Lazarus and they will, hack some financial institutions. But yeah, this is why they are talking about on-prem, maybe to put the private key in somehow HSM, or to do on-chain with Hypernative. But they good about security. They have CISOs. I don't think DeFi have CISO.
All right. So thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so we'll start the second panel. The second panel will be around security. The first one was about compliance that just slid into our domain. So I'm Tomer. I'm from KPK. For about a year, leading the growth and strategy, especially around vault risk creation. And I came from the Israeli ecosystem, so also worked at the Hexagate before that, and in eOracle after that. One of the main things that brought me into KPK was the fact that I have a bit of knowledge around security, and KPK is asset managers that are taking security in a very, very serious matter. Part of the reason that Masa is visiting here in Israel is to meet the cybersecurity experts and the custodian experts and non-custodian experts. And here in Israel, I'm very proud to be part of the Israeli ecosystem, because I feel that we are the ones that can bring the change from all the hacks and the bullshit that we're seeing in the market today. Me and Eylon are pushing the Israeli ecosystem everywhere we go. It's great to have everyone here, and let the panel introduce themselves.
Thank you. I'm Yoni. I lead the product engineering group of Hexagate at Chainalysis, where we focus on real-time monitoring for security on chain. Before that, I was managing risk on DeFi at Chaos Labs for protocols like Aave. And after that, I worked at eOracle with Tomer, where we built a decentralized Oracle network on top of EigenLayer, if you guys remember them. Today we're focusing on improving the security posture of institutions and also protocols on chain, providing new products and capabilities with AI, and I'll tell more about it later.
I'm Lotem. Right now I'm doing some security stuff for StarkWare. And on my spare time, non-existing spare time, I'm doing volunteering at SEAL 911.
Does it work? Yeah. So my name is Adi. I lead the EMEA sales team at Hypernative. We are a web-based security provider working with some of the largest institutions in the space with very, very large DeFi protocols, wallets, exchanges, and basically all the players in the ecosystem today. Joined 3 years ago. I don't have experience with other crypto companies in the space. When I joined, we were, I think, 15 people. Today we are like across the 100 people, I think. And I can definitely say that the institutions are coming, especially on the sales side. We are not wasting time on any like exercise, innovation teams that are doing exercise on blockchains. Very exciting times.
Okay, so I wrote a bunch of questions, but I saw from the last panels that every question gets a long response. So we'll drill it down to a couple of questions that personally I'm very interested in. So we talked about the trade-offs between decentralization and security. So on the infrastructure level, we know Bitcoin, the decentralization itself is the security. So nobody can pause your contracts, nobody can take your, like Ron said, freeze your Bitcoin in your wallet. So there's a trade-off of, in the app layer, there's this trade-off between operations and the trade-offs of decentralization. So I'd like to hear from you guys, also for Lotem that is working on the L2, that we talked about it today. Like what does it look like, the difference, the trade-offs between operation, security, and decentralization, and how do you think moving forward it would look like?
It might be, I believe that it's not contradictory to one another. Many times decentralizations comes with security, like we saw recently with the hacks that we helped DAO hack, that it all came from lack of decentralization, where only one DVN could do anything it wants. So I wouldn't go to the length of saying that Bitcoin is the way to go, because we're trying to be innovative here, and we don't want to be stuck on trying to do anything a five years timeline. This is not how the future will work. I do find it reasonable to have something in the middle, to have some trust in some companies or some sort of a security council. And the big issue here, you would say, but look at what happened for Bybit. So this is also, the security council has to be chosen in a way that they actually do the work, do the due diligence, and basically the idea is don't trust, you have to verify anything you do. This is the main highlights, and we'll keep it short.
Yeah, I agree with Lotem. I think decentralization is like it's a tool for security. It's not like a principle we want to adhere to like blindlessly. I think that in some cases you need decentralization, that it provides you the security that you need, but in some cases you don't want it to be an obstacle to provide the security. For example, if you have user funds in your protocol, or you manage a vault or something, then you want to have the ability to quickly react to exploits. And decentralization is many times it's kind of a delay mechanism for your operations. If you have a governance or multi-sig, you need everybody to sign that, and that's decentralized. But in some cases, you want a centralized point where you can quickly react to an exploit. I think it's a tool. Also, as Lotem said, the layer 0 hack, like layer 0 is a decentralized bridge, right? But they had like a single node operating more than $300 million of funds. And that's exactly where decentralization could have helped in those cases. So we need to understand where exactly in the stack we should have the decentralization, and where it's an obstacle for better security, essentially.
Yeah, I agree with what Yoni is saying. I think that security and decentralization represent two different values, and obviously there is some trade-off between the two. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at protocols that are looking to attract liquidity from large financial institutions, they will not compromise on security, and there are points and circuit breakers that they should implement in place in order to mitigate exploits that are happening. And this is where we will see that security will overcome like decentralizations, and in other places they will require multi-sigs and that basically will enhance the security posture of the company. So different values, and we will see the trade-off.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay, so another question that I wrote that about the operational security. So we've seen that hacks are going away from smart contract vulnerabilities, and we saw that much more in 2022 to 2023. The Euler hack was purely like smart contract vulnerability, but if you've seen Drift, Resolve, Layer 0, it's mainly Web 2 going into Web 3. So it's not really the smart contract itself. The smart contract operates as it should, but the hackers managed to get into the system through Web 2. How do you guys think we should solve it? And what do you think is the most underestimate risk in the space today?
Sure, I can start. So, yeah, obviously, like the most underestimated risk is everything that is connected with operational security, whether it's private key compromise, whether it's off-chain infrastructure attacks, and like very easy to see this from Kelp, from Resolve, from Drift. These type of attacks are very lucrative in terms of our ROI for the attackers. Instead of trying to find some vulnerability in the code, they are targeting the designers, the designers, the signing process, the workflows. And I think that what basically is expected now from the teams is to level up their signing processes and workflows, to adopt more tools that will provide them these transaction security, transaction simulations, in order to understand the real intent of the transactions. What we're seeing that teams are doing basically today, they have whitelists, they will whitelist the address, they will have time locks, they're using multi-sigs. We're seeing that it's not enough. It's a good starting point, but Bybit, Drift, we're seeing this again and again. They don't understand the transaction intent, and this is where the exploiters are basically taking leverage of.
I think that smart contracts have become much more secure as we go. With the industry did focus a lot on smart contract security. We have great auditors, we have great tools to develop smart contracts, and then formal verification, and then on-chain monitoring that knows how to monitor your contract and stuff like that. But we don't have the same standards for operational security in the ecosystem, and it's been discussed also in the previous panel, but we should focus on that. Humans are like a very big point of failure, and how they also operate with their funds. That's why we are seeing more and more of that, and we see social engineering become a big part of the exploits. And I believe that we should focus on improving those tools that provides those security teams, those operators to operate on chain. And that's why also for us, we've built a gate signer, which is like a pre-transaction simulation that every transaction that you're doing on chain, you should go through some kind of pre-execution simulation to make sure everything's good and safe. And yeah, also we are improving those tools. I think the industry is changing toward that, and we at Exagate, we focus on improving those tools. We see the hacks, we see what's going on. We're working on new models that detect those kinds of exploits, and we know how to automatically respond to those threats. Just recently, there was another exploit with Polymarket. I'm sure some of you have heard. It was an all private key compromise, like a Web 2 hack. Luckily, or I would say, Luckily, they did monitor those wallets with us, and we did detect this compromise with a new model we just implemented. So we are focusing on that, and we see that in action today. So I think the industry would go more towards focusing on these exploits, and that's what we should focus on. Yeah.
I think the answer can be both of the colleagues talked about security for big teams. I'll actually say something about. I'll say about small teams, like not small teams, but personal funds. That many users don't follow the best practice of keeping their own money. I'm sure I saw at the start that most of us raised our hands when being asked if we lost any funds on crypto. So this is something that we see, at least in SEAL, we see every day. Some days, tens of people losing a total of millions of dollars to scams, to randomly clicking on an ad, on a Google ad. If you all search for Uniswap recently, the first ad is actually a drainer, Angelo Freno. So don't click there. So actually, it's getting also to the users, and we're just not mature. I would say we're trying to get to being mature enough, both as users, which I hope that in the next bull run we will not see a rise again of those loss. But we do also see from companies that trying to protect the users themselves, either wallets started to do screening against address poisoning. If you saw recently, there was a few months ago a 5 million address poisoning hack, so scam. So those actually still work. If we thought it's a thing of the past, we do see those yet, but luckily wallets started to implement and starting to going security first for the users, and also institutions, not institutions but companies. We do see some rise in keeping better OPSEC, and even having an EDR a few years ago was not unthink of in many companies. Now some still don't use EDRs, and some are as many millions. The more hacks go, as our friends from Utila said, first there is an hack, and then they're trying to implement the best practices. I hope, so my point is that I hope all of you will go home and tomorrow will go to your security team or assistant, say we need some EDR, we need some any protection we can have.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. We'll go to the final two questions that I find personally the most interesting. So the entire world is talking about the AI revolution, and it seems that it does help the hackers getting more vulnerabilities, like making the surface of the attacks much larger. How do you guys see the AI affecting the offense, but also the defensive part of cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I think AI is fundamentally changing a lot of different areas, right? Like development, engineering, and also security, and other major areas. And it's like kind of a cherev pipiot, like a double-edged sword, where attackers can easily, like the barrier to entry for attackers is much lower. You can have like a noob hacker can scan the entire blockchain, find vulnerabilities and hack them much easier today. And we've seen that over the past few months. We've seen an explosion in hacks in crypto, and I'm sure it's related to AI. And then on the other side, on the security side of things, how I see it personally, and we see that at Exagate, is that AI also gives you the ability to scale your security operations. So instead of having maybe one or a few people working on security, if at all, you can use agents now to help you scale your operations. So we are working today on enabling Hexagate usage and other Chainalysis products to use a new platform we're launching called Chainalysis Agents that gives you the ability to use agents to use our products. So even a single security researcher can scale its operation, can use the entire suite of features Hexagate has, and then also have like a much better triage system, incident response, automation. And I think AI really helps scale the security. So we need to keep up all the time with the new hacks that we see on live in the nature. But AI also helps you scale the defense. And also it can help improve your models. But I think currently the better solution with this hacks is to understand the vulnerabilities, to monitor them, and then to be ready to respond whenever something happens. So that's how I see it.
I agree with what you said. So I'll take the answer to a different aspect, more on the IR side, which is something we saw in the past that not anyone could do incident response, and even if something happened, let's now can take weeks to reverse engineer something or to see exactly what we're trying to do. And now you can actually connect Claude and tell them, Claude, at this moment something happened. Can you look at all those logs in my cloud and find anything you can think of? And usually does a pretty good job. I can say from experience that I just dropped without no skills, no tools. It was a long time ago when only started, about almost like 600,000 lines of JavaScript, and I told it find all external connections. There is something malicious here, and it found the hack. The reason for a hold station. It was a few months ago, almost half a year, I think. So it actually found what they did in this hack from again 600,000 lines of code. Let's find any reverse engineer trying to find something like that without the source code itself, all manifested. So it does a pretty good job for the incident response, which I think, and you don't need to be a super high-level researcher to do that.
So I can tell from I would like to talk about how I see AI in the sales process. Obviously, AI is used by the good guys, it's used by the bad guys, and it helps us on the R&D and the ship and then deploy faster. But also on the sales side, we are seeing that the sales teams are able to educate the prospects on the different attack surface, on the different products that they should really use. And we talked about operational security. So this is obviously we're leveraging AI a lot in order to communicate the value and show the prospects where the real attack surface and which they have the most exposure to. And then also on the post-sale side, we are able to help our customers make the full use of our system and really understand their security posture and how they are using and leveraging our systems and configure the system in the best way possible to be protected in a real-time scenario, which is basically the main goal. Because you can have the best system, like alerting system and detection system in the world. If you are not really using it correctly, then it's useless. So they are getting better, but we are also getting better.
Okay, and for the last question, I wanted to ask you guys as someone who is working in the security ecosystem around DeFi and around crypto, if I'll get $100 million tomorrow from a TradFi allocator, and I'll ask you guys, what do you think I should do to defend myself and the capital that I got allocated to? What 1-2 tips that you would give me to protect the capital and not losing the funds? Because I'm in crypto in DeFi for 5 years. first time I lost funds last month with the kelp dove hack, and I know my shit around crypto and DeFi, but still, it got me. So, Adi, maybe you should start.
Yeah, we are working with many allocators, many in the size that you mentioned and above. I think that what we are seeing is, first of all, make sure, and this is like maybe 2 years ago, that the bare minimum was audit. This was a requirement, but now the bar is higher, obviously, and now the minimum will be real-time monitoring and prevention system. You need to monitor all the entire stack, all the protocols, all the bridges, oracles, everything that you're interacting with, all the dependencies. You need to have clear automated workflows in place to make sure that if something happens, you are not relying on human in the loop, you are not creating lags in your response, but you are basically mitigating the exploit automatically where it's possible. Then obviously you would like to have tools that are connected to transaction security, transaction simulation. At Hypernative, we have the transaction guard, which is now being adopted by all the largest financial institutions to simulate the transaction, to understand the true intent of the transaction, to assess the counterparty risk. Again, if it's a bridge, if it's a protocol, it's something that should be continuously vetted. So you should think about monitoring the entire stack, not as like a checkbox in the onboarding process, but as like a 24/7 operational function. And then obviously you should have the incident response playbook in place, ready, rehearsed, to be able to contain the attack. If something happens, people should know who reacts, who has the authority to act, what can be done automatically and what not.
Yeah, I agree with Adi. I'll just add to that I think security is some kind of a culture that you need to be part of, that you need to adopt, right? If you manage users' funds, you're accountable for them. I know we've discussed about it in the previous panel, but I think people do have accountability, and maybe we need to formalize that, but that's one thing. I think it's a culture. You need to be ready to ongoingly invest and allocate resources to security. It's not a checkbox thing, like Adi said, that you do and then you forget about it. You need to constantly do practices on triage and be ready for new type of exploits going on. And I think as a bare minimum, again, as Adi said, use Hexagate, Hypernative tools to have a pre-transaction simulation, ongoing monitoring on your activity on chain, and then automated response or incident response ready to act. I think that's the bare minimum, but I think again it's something that you need to ongoing invest and allocate resources to make sure you're ready for what's happening. And then also the entire stack again is vulnerable, and so every time you use certain asset or a protocol, you should understand the entire dependency list, right? Like which bridges they are using, which oracles they're using, which lending protocols. And you need to monitor them and be ready to act once something in the chain breaks. So composability is great, but it adds also a lot of dependency. So yeah, that's my take.
I'll say one word about responsibility that we all like to say, and no, they need to take responsibility, but even we say that because in crypto we have money, but outside of crypto we also have hacks, and they take data. And I don't recall many CISOs going to jail because of hacks and data leakage. So before we speak like that, let's see what's going on the other side of the world, and we're not there yet anywhere. And I think that the OnlyFans CISO needs to go to jail. I do want to see all the senators' data and how much they pay all them, but let's take it another time. And also, I'll also again something a little different. How you keep your funds? It's really almost impossible nowadays. And you can also see what happened with the Kelp DAO. We're going back there because everyone assumed, even Ave said, "Oh, it's fine. You trust Ave." Ave had paid best of money to all risk analysis teams to say that this is fine, but this was public on-chain. Everyone could see in the documentation on-chain. It was public to everyone. You don't need to be some institution that checks and do due diligence and talk to the teams. But no one actually, I would say that they saw it, but no one really cared because it never happened before in this way. And we also have those, I won't give any ideas, but we also have those single point of failure still in our ecosystem, which we might, some of them we know, some of them we don't think of as one of them. And I'll finish with an optimistic note that think if one day something happens to CCIP of Circle.
Yeah, I'll just add, as was spoken in the previous panel, I think the incentives are broken in the markets, and as a fund manager or asset manager that wants to maximize TVL and yield, you sometimes don't allocate enough resources to security, and this is something that we need to change. And I'll just pass it to you, Tomer, and just to hear how you at KPK take security. Like, how do you handle that? How do you see that as part of your operations, as one of like the most veteran asset manager in the market? Would love to hear from you.
Surprise question, thank you. So, as I said in the beginning, the reason that I actually got the job as in KPK was the fact that I worked in one of those companies, and I was very aware of security, and I grew up in this ecosystem, and always think about vulnerabilities and what the other protocols are using. We are allocating $100 million here, so they're using Fireblocks, they're using Utila, they're using Fortify, or they're just using like one-of-one multisig. They're using Hypernative, they're using Hexagate, Blockade. Which kind of monitoring do they use? Do they have incident response? How does it look like, the operational part and the security part of those protocols? So we're doing this very deep dive and due diligence into all of the protocols that we are allocating funds to. It's very important to understand the people that are behind the protocol, if they're serious or not. I'm sure that all of us went on calls with strange people that don't open their camera, have like a fake face instead of their own face, and they're not willing to identify themselves. I'm not giving my money to those people. I want to see serious people. I want to see that taking themselves serious, and they're looking at security seriously. On what we do on the operational part, so I think we're the first customer, one of the first customers of Hypernative. We go a long way with them, and we are not deploying even $1 without deploying, first of all, the monitors. We have automations on every position, on every collateral that we adding on Morpho, Euler, Gearbox. We have the automations in part. We have the monitors in part, so we know exactly what we're doing. And I think it paid off. We talked with Marcelo today about the resolve hack, and we actually used the Hypernative alerts to get out of a position in the same block that the hack happened. And I don't think that I ever seen something like that, that as soon as the detection system saw that the exploit happened, we got out of the position in the same block, which is, I was like stunned. So this is what we do. We're still not 100% safe, because you cannot be 100% safe, like Lotem said. I think like this is part of the game. If you want to gain some APYs, you have to take this risk. But we're doing everything that we can, and part of the reason that I think Marcelo came here to Israel to meet the people here is that we are taking security as the most important part. I think that every quarter that we have like the whole company meeting, the first KPI is always don't lose funds. Never lose funds. This is number one priority, and reputation and not losing fund. This is what makes you like. That's what will keep us in the market for a long time. I think we are one of the only ones that are here from 2020. We work with the biggest protocols, and the reason that we are still here, not like other curators and asset managers that lost everything in 2 weeks, is that's the main part. No losing funds for our customers, even if we don't have the liability, which I do agree with everyone. We should, not we, everyone that holds funds for other people should have liability. I hate this part. I always advocate that they need to take they need to take ownership on what they're doing. And it's not reasonable that you hold $300, $500, $1 billion of other people's funds and you don't give a shit about your security. It's crazy. So yeah, this is why we are all here. And I think that here in Israel, we're doing the best job that we can do to help this ecosystem moving forward.
I just want to add something. This was discussed before and also was raised now. I'm not sure that the incentives are not there. So first of all, you build your own protocol. You're a startup. What's the number one thing you want to attract? You want to attract money. Where is this money going to come from? Nobody is going to put $1, not like serious money, like Karpathy money, like other liquidity providers, without some monitoring system in place. Like, this is not going to happen. So the incentives are there just because they want to attract money, not because they care about security. So this is number one. Number two, like if you're looking today at DeFi Llama, like the top 50 protocols, top 100 protocols, everyone use some monitoring solution in place today. Not sure the incentives are not there. Obviously, if we're talking about a small startup, so not sure this is the target of our companies, but they also have to adopt if they want to work with the large players.
Questions from the audience?
First of all, great panel, guys. Tomer, you mentioned something, but maybe it's an open question for the entire panel. But you mentioned that you guys, you withdrew one of your positions from Resolve in the same block as a hack happened, which is really interesting, especially because nowadays most blocks are created using block builders, and some of these block builders, they have private mempools. So I was just wondering, like, how do you guys deal with that sort of, like, all the transactions that come from these private block builders? How can you identify risks there? And also maybe like in the same on the same topic, like, do you see actors like Lazarus or others using these private block builders to actually facilitate these attacks, or like to bypass Hypernative or Exagate, etc.?
I had this discussion with the CTO of Exagate, with Niv, about it's a cat and mouse game. So yeah, they can use private mempools. They can use, like, in theory, they can have the perfect hack that nobody can stop, that nobody can detect. But like the protocols are making mistakes, also the hackers are making mistakes. And it's all about like dedicating enough resources to get the bar high enough, so the hackers that make the mistake, you can catch them and you can stop it. So yeah, it's a perfectly legit question. I think in this specific case it was not a private mempool, but it's possible. I think the whole game is just having enough guards to make the hackers think and make a mistake, and once they make a mistake, you have the opportunity to defend yourself. And maybe you guys have a...
Like, how we think about it is we're trying to detect the threat as early as possible. If it happens on a private mempool and we don't have access to that, then that's an issue. But we do monitor mempools, and we do have speak with like block builder and stuff like that, and we try our best to do what we can. We do have models that detect intents. Also, attackers, they usually not usually, but a lot of the times they don't act in a single transaction, an atomic transaction, and they have multiple steps. But sometimes it does comes to luck or to maybe miss accuracy of the attacker that lets you defend the same block. But we're doing our best to be as early as possible in those cases.
I feel like I'll repeat myself a bit what I said before, that attackers do make mistakes, but this is something that I want to emphasize about protocols, that sometimes we do see some protocols getting hacked, and then weeks later or months later, a fork of this protocol getting hacked. We can all laugh about it, but it might happen to anyone. You have this is one of the places we have to always look at what happened around us. As much as we all hate being on Twitter, it's a place we all must be to be up to date. And also, we saw it before. We saw protocols getting hacked on testnets, and then days later getting hacked on mainnet. And so hackers do still make mistakes. It's not like, but they do change their behavior, and so should we. Something last point, interesting point about those hacks, that we do see the rise of MEV, of a protocol, some hacker trying to hack a protocol, and an MEV getting the hack before the hacker does. And sometimes the MEV returns the funds, sometimes they don't. And we also see something like that happens. Let's say, for example, I'll take this one. The Ikubo hack, which was recently, it was a hack on open approves on some contract, and the hacker himself got some of the funds, but he didn't do all his research, and MEVs and white hacks managed to get also part of it and return some of it. So if this helps to complete the question.
We just one thing to add on that is that we're talking about two different types of attack surfaces and attacks. So we have the smart contract exploits, and we have the operational security attack like private key compromise. When we're looking at the smart contract exploits, so what companies like ours will usually do, we'll try to understand, we'll try to detect the attack before it takes place, and we'll try to mitigate it as soon as possible, whether it's before even the attack takes place or after the first exploit transaction, where usually even like 90% of the funds can still be saved. But maybe the attackers has some advantage that they can work through those like private mempools or whatever. When we're looking at resolve, we're looking at private key type of attacks. I think that security companies do have some leverage here, because if we are forcing each transaction to be simulated, we have the time to analyze, to understand what's going to happen as part of the attack, and it maybe shifts a bit the roles and how the attack takes place.
By the way, I think Lotem tried to say, don't put your money in compound V2 forks. It keeps happening again and again and again, and it's crazy. Second of all, also in the Kelp DAO, so they held the funds in Ethereum mainnet and in Arbitrum. I remember I talked to you guys and asked, why the hell they're still keeping the money in Arbitrum? Why they're not starting to launder it? And then a day after, the Security Council took the money back. And Niv said, like, yeah, the trip to their fun day trip was over. Maybe they took a vacation and forgot. So that was a big mistake, because usually when North Korea are attacking, they're laundering the money in 10 seconds. They kept the funds in the wallet for days until the Security Council just took it from them. It's a huge mistake by them that cost them $70 million. Somebody in North Korea must die because of that. But yeah.
About your questions about the Kelp DAO hack, maybe Arbitrum has some kind of censorship that we don't know of, and they just censor the address, and the hackers could not do anything.
I can say that it might be true, but I believe more that North Korea was really used to centralized protocols don't do anything to get the funds back, so they got lazy.
So Arbitrum has a security council that can do stuff that most of L2s cannot, and because the money stayed in the wallet, the security council, it takes days, right? It doesn't take minutes. So the security council gathered together and said, okay, let's take out the money from their wallet into our DAO, which is first time that I ever seen it in crypto. But if they would act in minutes or seconds like they usually do, the security council couldn't do anything, even though it's not decentralized and all of that. But the mistake was why they kept the money so long, for days. And I think Lotem's right. They got lazy. Okay, I mean, there's no other explanation for that.
Protocols are starting to also adopt more solutions that are connected with compliance to understand if the address, if the wallet is connected to like an attacker that is trying to basically launder the funds, they would like to block the wallet from trying to interact with them. And we're working with several companies that basically provide this solution. So I think it's a good progress. It's nice to see that.
Thank you for coming, guys. Appreciate it.